Something's coming in. Shh. Oh, just a grenade.
Or, you know, potentially retailers just kind of making fairly bad decisions in stores as to what they stock. But we've seen a huge shift as well of products going online and more people buying digitally, you know, as you said. You just thought, actually, if something goes wrong, it's only, you know, it's only ourselves to blame. If your brand says all the things and that you then don't need to say, that's powerful. You know, grenade being impactful, memorable, explosive, does what it says on the tin. People ask me all the time, you know, what worked? They always look for one thing. They want one thing you did that no one else did. We'd have been digging holes for a tenner a day if we had to. It's 10 years to the day, just as passionate as it was 10 years ago, with a lot more people around me and lots more sales and a bigger marketing budget. But I love it as much as I always loved it. As I told someone, we had a call a few hours ago and there was a lot of thinking going on. I said, guys, don't let a thinker. What's the doers? Stuff you said on that podcast. I went, I told you all this weekly to your face for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he went, different on the radio.
How are you? You good?
Good.
Right.
I'm really good, yeah. Very good, thanks. Yeah, sorry, you were telling me about your T-shirt or something.
No.
Particularly hench.
No, do I? Damn, I'm not trained for ages. This is just fat. This is body fat. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just,
it's like
pure lard. Are we recording yet? Because are we?
Yeah, we're recording. Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, great. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I was going to say you're naked. Because I'm literally sitting here naked. I've only got a T-shirt on.
Go on then. Go on the show us then. Go on. Give me some.
No, I've literally got camo shorts on. It's all I ever wear. Camo shorts.
That's all good.
I've just done it. It's the 10th anniversary.
I saw that. I saw your post.
Yeah, the day we launched Grenade today. And I've just realised that I'm wearing almost identical clothes to 10 years ago. I promise you they are an upgraded version, but clearly my dress sense has not changed.
So welcome to the podcast. You know, for my listeners and viewers who don't know much about you, I don't know where you've been, because you're all over social media. You're everywhere. You know, you started the brand Grenade with your partner Juliet, and for £27 to 72 million, sold it to Lion Capital, which I'm assuming that's an investment firm. And you know, I read an article where it's tipped north of 200 million, the retail value, which goes out. And there was a little article which I read, which is tipped for it to be the next $1 billion brand, which is amazing.
I saw that. Yeah, I didn't write it. Yeah, so just to back it, we actually started with 500 quid with it was a passport to export loan.
Yeah.
Trading from home, and then cut an extremely long story short, and obviously it's our 10th anniversary today.
Yeah.
That we sold some shares. We worked our nuts off solidly for like 4 years. After starting the brand in 2010, with 500 quid, we didn't employ anyone because we couldn't afford to. So we just, for 4 years, we didn't take a salary. We didn't take a day off. But after 4 years, then we had employed a few people. I think there were six of us and 4 cats. And then Growth Point Capital came in and valued the business at £35 million. So we sold broadly half the shares, putting us into a minority. We hit the reset button, carried on. They exited in 2017 and Lion Capital came in for 72 million. So again, broadly, we sold half our shares, hit the reset button and carried on. And then collectively now, we've still got 28% of the brand, I think it is. And then, you know, who knows what the valuation is, because the last clean valuation we had was when, you know, Lion came in. I mean, trading's been really good, you know, coronavirus side. March was the best month we've ever had. You know, April was not the best month we've ever had. But yeah, we're having lots of fun. We've got 100,000 retail locations just in the UK that sell our product. We're in 80 countries. We just found out this morning that, you know, we're going to go live in Woolworths in Australia, and we've got half of that bar set is going to be ours. And this, as I like to call it, we are probably constantly distracted by positive opportunity. Many good things going on. That's actually one of the difficult things we've always had with Grenade. We've always got to really try and refine the best opportunities, because every day something comes in. People, you know, whether it's gym equipment or clothing or different opportunities, different countries, licensing agreements. There's just so much good stuff to go through. And obviously this COVID's kind of, you know, given a massive shake up. So things have changed quite quickly. But things will get back to normal at some point. And we're just enjoying for the moment, probably having got the pause button on the business. So we're doing things that we wouldn't normally have time to do. It's really made us focus more on our .com business, which, you know, we should have been doing anyway. We were doing, but it's accelerated that. But we're still doing new product launches. We've got a new product launch coming out in a few weeks' time, which again, superb. So, who's doing new product launches at the moment? And we could have easily not done that, but we've decided to do it. And as much as we can, kind of have business as normal, because there's so much doom and gloom and negativity out there. We just, people want to get back to training and going to the gym and doing things they enjoy. And, these are aspects of things that I think people are kind of missing. So we want to try and give people normality as much as we can.
No, awesome. That's great. And, that's a great way. And there is a lot of negativity around. But I think, like I said before, there's a lot of positive stuff. Is how you look at things. What lens are you looking through? There's always growth opportunities.
Out of interest, what are a couple of positives for you in the current situation? What do you currently prefer about this situation?
What a great question to ask, because I've interviewed a lot of people. We interviewed a billionaire. So I've been trying to get as much information for my listeners. But I think the positive thing for me is that the economy was doing well. I know a lot of people say it wasn't, but in my eyes, the economy was doing really well before this happened. So it's not like we've gone into a major catastrophe. This is, for me, is a bit of a pause button. I know there's going to be an impact later on, but for positive for me is when we get out of here, there's going to be more demand, more money in the economy, because obviously the chancellor's print a lot of money to get this going again. So for me, I can only see positives. And, and I'm looking around, I'm walking around my area and I'm not seeing anyone panicking. In fact, I'm seeing people smiling. I'm seeing people have had time to pause. I've spent more time with my young daughters now to going for walks. I appreciate life more. And I've enjoyed having the conversation. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so for me, sorry, on your topic of your question is, I think a lot of us hit the reset button, like you said, in your business. I've done so much planning, getting sharpening that saw basically. And I think a lot of people are going to come out a bit more happier. That's my opinion. Others maybe struggling.
And I think I put a post on LinkedIn actually a few days ago, and I just very quickly typed it on the phone, sat in the sauna, as you do.
Alan, 1 second. Alan, 1 second. Something's coming in. Shh. Oh, it's a grenade.
Yeah, that was a terrible catch.
It was a terrible catch. As my daughter.
That would be really
sorry.
funny if she'd frozen it.
Yeah.
So it's rock solid.
Yeah.
And
then hit me.
Hit you in the face, knocked you out, and I'd be sat here quietly, just as you we're just in like a bit of a heap on the floor, but like slightly awkward. I'll just carry on. I'll interview myself. Yeah.
What was that, Jay? What's the positives? Yeah. What's the positives?
Yeah. So, Jay Dhillon's dead. But on the positive note, the podcast just went up a notch.
And I've plugged
I'm not sure
this.
anyone's ever died on their own podcast before. No, you're quite right in terms of the positives. And actually, this LinkedIn post I did, I just finished it with the sentence of 2020 is going to be the year that we lost a year, but we'll have gained a lifetime of perspective. And I think it's I don't think I've had too many surprises as to what I really value, because I like to try and think I'm really grounded. And of course, I value time at home, nice bit of weather, walks in the countryside, all this. I've always actually valued that. And it's nice to have all the supercars and luxury stuff, and that's brilliant. But I've always enjoyed the basics. I like training, and because of that, I've actually always set my house up to be fairly self-sufficient. So I've got my own gym here, things like that. So all the things that are important to me, I'm sort of surrounded by. I've got my own veg gardens. I'm quite self-sufficient for veg, things like that. So I value all that stuff, and I always have done. I'm not sure many of the people did. I think there were a lot of people really caught in the rat race, which I was as well, and we all were. And you just get caught in the day to day and commuting and jumping on planes and flying around the world and doing business, and you very much get caught up in meetings. And I think it's been really nice to pause all of that and work out kind of what you miss. I don't miss a huge amount actually from the early start of the year, or how things were. But it does make you realise what I was missing in terms of, never being at home. I've really missed never being. I mean, I haven't got children, but obviously you've got children, so you're kind of missing your kids growing up. And that's just part of the, everyone has to go to work. And I never saw my dad much when I was growing up because he was always at work. Yeah. And that's something maybe that will perhaps change in the next few months. People will work from home more and value relationships and going for a walk with your neighbours and, hugging a friend and all these things now that you can't do. Maybe people value that a bit more.
Yeah, and I think, it is an interesting time because, like you said, spending more time, the reset button is so important. And sometimes we have a reset button when it's forced on us when the recessions come and everything's crashed. you built your business in the recession. I got caught up in the last recession. So this has been a pleasant thing where the government have said, look, we're going to pause it, but we're going to help you. And let's be honest, I've been quite surprised how much the government have helped. With the
yeah, I have. I've had a lot of criticism, and I know they've done a lot of things wrong, but done a lot of things right. And to be honest, who'd want that job? I mean, what a difficult situation to be in. They're going to get criticised no matter what they do, and that they can only ever, like we all can, have the benefit of hindsight. And of course, they've done things wrong looking back. But looking back, we'd have all won the lottery last weekend, wouldn't we? Because we'd know the numbers. So that hindsight is so ridiculously powerful. And yeah, this is a really weird situation to be in, where they have a recession. There's obviously going to be like an economic decline. Really weird in the sense that this is the first time I think ever that things are closed because they've been forced to close, not because they weren't viable businesses. Surprised me actually as well how ropey a lot of businesses were and how quickly they tumbled, which to be fair as well, they probably weren't very good businesses in the first place. I mean, Flybe couldn't survive the first 2 days of this. I mean, I know it's hit the airline industries hard, but I mean, they were like, they'd have gone within a week, I think, without coronavirus. So I don't know what was going on there, but they must have been saddled with probably so much debt from previous deals and refinancing or whatever. They just couldn't operate because it wasn't a viable business. Those planes were full. I think a lot of the fares were probably too cheap. It was 3 times the price to travel by train on the same journey than to fly, which I just don't understand. Yeah,
and it's interesting because you're right. Businesses, you got to be fit. You got to be fit enough to. And I talked about a podcast 2 years ago, and obviously I had a big recession in the last recession. But your business got to be able to sustainable because even though we've had this lot of breakdown and meltdown, a business can have that at any time. Anything can change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one reason actually that through this current situation and the last recession as well, I've always worked in health and fitness because it's what I've enjoyed. And luckily, I think it's one of those things that people really value. So I think it's one of the last things to get hit if there's a recession because, if it's a gym memberships are cheap. Yeah. For sort of whether you're paying 20 quid a month or you're paying 70 quid a month, you've still got somewhere you can go 7 days a week for 12 hours a day and get fit and healthy and use the sauna and swim and all that sort of stuff. It's pence per day. And I think that's one of the last things that'll go. I can understand that, weekends away, hotels, restaurants, going out for meals, can understand all that sort of gets cut quite quickly because they're just nice to haves. But it's interesting how many people now saying that are enjoying, for instance, cooking from home. Yeah. We're going to be so much better off and healthier as a nation because more people are going to cook stuff from scratch as opposed to just buying, ready meals and flying around the world on these 10 quid package holidays and all this. And I think a lot of that's going to go, and I just don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah, and we're fortunate, we've got gardens, and I've enjoyed the garden. We've just enjoyed spending time.
May's my favourite month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Growing up, we're probably a similar kind of age, about 40 plus kind of thing. But the thing for me is obviously you're
seriously. I'm 43. You look younger than me.
I'm 41.
Okay.
So
we had a hard life.
Did
you have a massive paper round?
I had a massive. Oh my God! You read my story, haven't you? Have you read my story? But no, what I'm saying is, when we were growing up, obviously there was a lot more time spent with families. Kind of thing. Because on Sundays, like for example, town was kind of shut. There's a more time downtime. Whereas I think recently with the internet, which has been great, it's a 365. Everything's happening all the time. So I think you're right where people are going to appreciate this time a lot more. And I always think, how are you going to use this time? And I've used it wisely. There's always a time to use it, planning, preparation. As much as having downtime, it's a great time to, look at what you're doing and strategize.
Yeah, definitely. Using the time wise is a really good point, actually. When this wasn't really a huge surprise when this happened. We could sort of see this probably happening potentially from January. And we planned at Grenade for something like this fairly early. And actually, we locked down voluntarily before we were told to, just because it seemed like a good thing to do. We'd already started to really reduce our travel. And I know that a group of us travelled overseas, about 10 of us, late Feb, very late Feb. And I even said to the guys then, if you don't want to go, don't go. We'll take precautions. So we were being super sensible anyway. And then when this kicked in, we'd already got plans in place for people working from home, and I think we've picked up the mantle, pretty comfortably. Our biggest issue really has been stores that just shut. Or potentially retailers just kind of making fairly bad decisions in stores as to what they stock. But we've seen a huge shift as well of products going online and more people buying digitally, as you said. But yeah, the first few weeks, it was kind of all these plans were put in place, and I thought, well, this is a bit strange because my day-to-day work of going into the office and doing stuff and lots of face-to-face meetings, lots of travel, all changed very quickly. And then, for the first few weeks, it's strange. And then now I'm busier than ever. Every hour of every day, I've got something booked in. And it kind of makes me wonder how I ever used to drive to work, because I've got a 2-hour commute, there and back. But now I'm sort of panicking when we go back to the office. Like, I've got to fit the commute in as well as everything else I do, because I feel I'm productive from when I get up to when I go to bed. I've never worked, not so hard, but I've never worked so many hours, but it feels productive. Yeah. So, I'm enjoying it. I said actually just a few hours ago, Grenade now to me feels like a startup again, which I'm actually quite enjoying, because we've got like 70 staff and it's a pretty substantial business. But I quite enjoy the rawness of it being a startup and not knowing the answers and kind of having to think and come up with solutions to some of these problems that no one's really got the answers to. So I really enjoy that. I'm more of a wartime leader than a peacetime leader, so I quite like the challenge.
I love that because I'm doing a TED Talk, and the TED Talk is around the migrant mindset, because my granddads were in the army and my parents came from India, and I've always taught philosophy of going to zero. So when you're talking about that mindset, that is a mindset of going to zero and starting again, and it's so exciting just to think of new ideas, a different kind of lens. And I'm excited because sometimes as entrepreneurs, it's about overcoming that challenge. And as much as you have the worry, but if you've got the freedom to just do it, that's great. But when you're forced to adapt, you kind of roll your sleeves up and get on with it, don't you? Get on with the fight.
Yeah, we've always been like that. Jules and I said, when we were a couple of years into Grenade, and we could have easily have gone bankrupt so many times. We even had the conversation, what would happen if we went bankrupt? Because you just got to kind of get it out. But as a husband and wife team with no staff and no kids, we just thought, actually, if something goes wrong, it's only ourselves to blame. But, we'd have been digging holes for a tenner a day if we had to, just to, like you said, roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. I'm not sure how common that mindset is. I'm not sure how common, it is for people to really go and roll their sleeves up. But we really enjoy that aspect of being very hands-on. And every time there's, for all the negativity as well, we just sort of see opportunity, really. Because there's so much doom and gloom on the news, and it's easy to sit around and be fed up, isn't it? And I think it's just nice to be able to go off your arse and be able to hopefully, navigate a way through. And then we've done it as well with obviously supporting the NHS and donating lots of products to the NHS and that, and hopefully do some good along the way. So hopefully I'll look back on this period that, huge reflective period, learned a lot. The trading was the trading. Prior to us going into lockdown, the business was absolutely just skyrocketing. I feel it'll all come back, maybe in different locations. But hopefully look back on the fact that, we helped the NHS, and hopefully family and friends and loved ones, aren't ill, because obviously the loss of life is horrific. So no one we don't want to trivialize any of this in terms of what's going on, because it's appalling. But and I said, actually, when this happens, this brings out the worst in people from all the profiteering that we've seen, but also it brings out the best in people as well. Yeah, and I think history will judge the people who try to help people. Like, for example, I've just been, I've seen the work you do in the NHS. It's phenomenal. I've supported the Prince's Trust. So I've been trying to help business entrepreneurs just by giving these free podcasts, recording or editing it. We don't make money from the podcast, it's not a profitable thing, but it's about giving something back. And I think a lot of people will, they'll look back at this period, and if they have profited from it, it won't look good for them. And people have long-term memories about these kind of things. Yeah, I hope so. And actually, I don't think we should underestimate, because I genuinely do underestimate this, actually, but I have so many messages a day from people who are inspired or thank me again. You'll be getting the same for just podcasts or webinars that we've done. And I've just done something recently where I've sort of pledged to give half an hour a week to help other businesses. And it's surprising how some of these businesses, they can have just really quick, simple questions that, because they don't know what they don't know, because they haven't gone through the same cycle that we've probably been through. It's actually a relatively easy answer. You can reassure people really quickly. And I've said some things to some businesses, and they're so excited. It's like you've just shown them fire, for the first time. And it makes a big difference, because if you can cut that learning curve down, and I've always said it's great to learn from your mistakes, but if you can learn from someone else's. So I'm giving the benefit of other people, the benefit to learn from my mistakes. And that really cuts that learning time down from maybe years to months or weeks. And people really appreciate that. So I sometimes underestimate perhaps how powerful that is. So I try and do more of these things, actually. Just because it does benefit. And again, it's better than putting the news on and them moaning at the government about PPE or who's died or who hasn't died, or they can't tell who's died, or because they don't know, and they don't count deaths at the weekend because they don't count, and all this stuff. And it's just so bloody frustrating.
It is. It really
is.
Yeah, and you know what? Given that 30 minutes, you're doing Pledge 30, and I think it's amazing, because obviously the podcast, 2 years later, people realise why I brought this in, because of my experience in 2009 with a mentor helped me get over the line. And that, I know the power of like, that's the difference between a coach and a mentor. Just a mentor just can do it based on experience. And that it's just that belief that you give them. Look, you'll get through this. You'll get through it. Just think of solutions rather than stuff like that.
Do you know what? That's a really good point you just said there, because I had this conversation with Rob Moore, actually, and you've just summed it up better than we did in about an hour. But I think probably mentoring. I'm not then probably a big fan of, say, coaching, but mentoring, yes. And I think, I'd rather learn through someone's experience than perhaps someone who's set up a business to teach people stuff that they probably haven't done themselves, if that makes sense. So I think, mentoring is very powerful.
Just to go on that quick example, and there's grey area between a mentor and a coach. I think the example that I give when I do my talks is in 2009, when the recession hit us hard, and we were in the recruitment sector, and we got nearly wiped out. My coach, who was really good, they had their own business, and they struggled through it. Well, my mentor walked in and said, look, I've been it, I've done it, you're going to get through it, trust me, do this, this, this. It's just that raw experience. It's like a footballer, like Steven Gerrard will go to an apprentice and say, you're going to make it. I believe in you. Just having that from someone who's been there.
It's worth a lot.
Worth a lot.
Yeah, it's worth a lot.
I just say the coaches do a really good role. I'm not saying coaches ain't good. I think coaches have their own little role, but people don't understand the difference. And great stuff. We've just gone straight into this. I've not even started where we're going to start, but we are going to do a follow-up to this in our studio, because I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and apologies that was actually, I think it was kind of the first week of lockdown, wasn't it, pretty much? Or was it the week before? It was it must have been the week before. It was very close.
Yeah,
it was very close.
Because I could, we sensed it was coming. And to be honest, our studio got locked down straight away as well. So we've been working from home. Luckily, we've got an office at home, which makes it easier.
And I did not want to be in a confined space with you. At all.
I don't blame you. I
can smell the germs.
Especially I could, we could have a little wrestle as well. A little ring there for us.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit sexual, but thanks anyway. If I look like I'm manoeuvring around a lot, I'm on a balance ball, by the way. Which is
Are you really? Oh,
yeah. Because I've got a bad back. This is how I know I've put weight on. I broke one last week. I actually burst one.
You burst this?
I burst the balance ball. It wasn't my finest.
I was wondering what I thought you were just nervous talking to me doing that, but you don't have to be.
Yeah, because I forget. But the nice thing about balance ball, they're great for your core, you see. So you can kind of I know
I like it.
So that I'm actually swerving around, but it's great for your core. It's just dead comfy. It's like being on a space hopper as a child. The grenade. Obviously, your story, I'm going to save that till my episode that we're going to do, the long one. But just tell me a bit about the brand. Why did you choose the name Grenade? Because I think, it's fascinating. Okay, so I'm really interested in the military. I've been interested in the military since I was a kid. Because I grew up in Birmingham, but my parents had a caravan on the south coast. So that's generally where a lot of the military training bases are, like Bobbington and the Royal Marine Commandos train at Poole Harbour. And my dad was into the military. My grandparents were in the military. One of my grandparents was a tank designer, and the other one, he was an ARP warden. So, and my dad was never interested in football and cricket or sport or anything like that. So I was kind of grown up where most dads would probably take their kids to football. Dad would take me to Bobbington Tank Museum or something like that. So I was always and I was never allowed to have a gun or anything like that. So I grew up kind of always wanting quite into my shooting and that now. So I've always enjoyed that, and I think with the best businesses, you gravitate towards what you enjoy. And and then I've always been interested in health and fitness and training as well, separately. And then I had a distribution business called Fusion, which is set up in the late 90s, importing product from mostly the US and distributing it around the UK, and it mostly bodybuilding style product. And because that was kind of where the supplement industry was, then it was pretty hardcore. And I thought actually there's more benefit to these products than just than bodybuilding. There's some really good stuff. There's lots of bad stuff as well, but there's a lot of good stuff about. So I went from being a distributor, a middleman distributor for kind of bodybuilding brands, into then doing my version or our version of a product, which was more fitness related. So it was just weight loss. We didn't bother with protein powders and all that stuff. We came up with a weight loss product, and then we didn't really know how to brand the weight loss product. And one day I was out running, and I'd given some product to a friend of mine, some of these blank capsules to a friend of mine that was doing some special forces training at the time. And he'd had these capsules to go and do some training. And I said, what do you think? And he said, it was like I swallowed a grenade. And then that's it. We went and trademarked the name Grenade. And I was amazed, actually, we could trademark it in Europe. We couldn't get it in the US, but subsequently did get it in the US probably about 2 years later. In fact, it might have been a year later, just through, again, a coincidence of someone I knew through sports nutrition whose products I distributed actually had this trademark in the US that he wasn't using. And we managed to buy it off him. And then, we combined all the things that we loved, or I love, because my wife hates the military, but she's fitness mad. So we combined the military and the fitness stuff. And it's such a copycat industry, what isn't? We wanted to come up with something that was really protectable. And not only could we protect the name, because Grenade was such an obvious protectable name within sports nutrition, because everything sounded very sciencey. And that didn't. It was very kind of obviously clearly sort of military. And I'm just a big believer with brands that you need to, if your brand says all the things about your brand that you then don't need to say, that's powerful. So, Under Armour, that sort of inner strength, and that almost like a coat of armor, for that compression wear, sort of tells you a lot. And I think, Grenade being impactful, memorable, explosive, does what it says on the tin. I got sick of distributing supplements. Well, in fact, tell a lie, I never distributed supplements that didn't work, so I wouldn't touch them, but I got sick of seeing other supplements being distributed that didn't work. So we made a commitment that, anything we did would be really effective, because as a consumer, I just hate being disappointed. And we not only protected the name, but also came up with that bottle. So if you knew the name, you know what it looked like. Because if you said to most people, Grenade, what a grenade looks like. So if you saw the bottle and you couldn't see the name, if you knew one, you knew the other. So 202 design marks, trademarks, pending patents later, we've got it all kind of pretty locked up. And then that's kind of really given us a license, a bit like Virgin, really, where Virgin Holdings has got several hundred companies. I feel like with Grenade, we could potentially have that holding company, that trusted brand, and then kind of go and put our stamp on it. And as our guys, Neil in marketing always says to me, let's do, what's our version of that event? What's a Grenade version? If one company is doing one thing, we'll go and do our version of it, which is why, we don't sponsor, and we get asked 1,000 times a day to sponsor events. We don't sponsor anything. If we're going to do it, we'll do our version of it. We don't just want to come sponsor a football match and put a logo next to it, because Barclaycard can do that. Clever about that. So we try and do stuff that's clever in a way. And whether that comes from me or not, I doubt it. But we've just always believed in sort of the power of brand, and it's just something that consumers, most importantly, can have a really strong opinion on. And if they love it, that's brilliant. If they hate it, that's absolutely fine. People always say to me, I get a lot of questions about brand and consumers loving their brand, and they always think that consumers should love a brand, but actually they don't. They just have to have an opinion on it. I don't like Marmite. But I know all about it, and but there's lots of people that do, so hence they use that as the marketing campaign. Simple, really.
Yeah, I like that. It's a great story. So the link is amazing, because obviously you've got the being young, but a lot of people have got ideas, and people have got some great brands. And by the way, what amazing that you can trademark that name, because that you wouldn't even thought you could get that, because it's such a Grenade. Everyone knows a Grenade. But what made
it was so obvious? It was staring everyone in the face.
That's what I'm saying to you. It's like amazing. Now you'd think of something now, It's amazing. But you know, you're unique. You know, you've got this great things. Many people have built great names. What do you think made you guys different? Yes, I get the story. Yes, I get this concept of brand. But then there's a lot that goes behind, doesn't it, to make it such a good, you know?
Yeah, loads. And you kind of need all of it. And again, people ask me all the time, you know, what worked? They always look for one thing. They want one thing you did that no one else did. And I think the one thing that we did that no one else did was we did all of it. So, you know, to take you back into the early days of Grenade, you know, Jules and I, as entrepreneurs and working hard, pretty formidable. You know, especially Jules, I always say she made the Terminator look lazy. So you got these really hard-working, passionate people, and that's infectious. Wanting to make the very best product that they can, wanting to make it as impactful and stand out. You know, we put it in a Grenade bottle on a shelf, you know, so very impactful. We went out and got the best athletes, you know, the leanest athletes. I learned years ago, personality goes a long way, you know, and we work with the retailers to the point that, you know, if so Al and Jules were going into a meeting, they'd be excited about it before we turned up. And we saw that over and over and again with Holland and Barratt. Like I said, whether they loved the product or hated it, if they loved it, you know, they wanted to meet us and say nice things. If they hated it, they wanted to tell us why they hated it. You know, and again, it was absolutely fine. You know, sometimes this just split the room, literally. But if we went in, you know, they remembered that meeting. It wasn't like a couple of other fairly corporate people going in, oh, no, you know, we want to sell you this product and we don't really care about it, but you should, but we don't. You know, and it's all that we'd go and go, right, this is what we've got, this is what we're going to do. And I think, like I said, it's that infectiousness. And then, you know, where we've done bars, we've always done stuff that frankly everyone else found far difficult to do, too hard to do. So people told us you could never make a high protein, low sugar bar taste like a chocolate bar. So we went and did it. And it took us years to do it. And we still spend years on NPD, but a lot of other people just don't bother. So that, you know, that's a big one. And I think then we've got all this amazing consumer generated content where consumers love us like, you know, like we love it. So that's just so powerful for a brand, because it means then, you know, like I said, consumers can kind of generate their own content, and we don't have to. And I think at its simplest, you know, we love it and have fun with it. So because we do, other people do. And it's one of those brands that sort of makes you smile. So if we rock up in London with James Haskell and an orange tank, people are like, oh, Grenade have turned up. And they probably know we've turned up before they've seen the word Grenade anywhere, which again is really powerful, because there's not many brands that could do that. And then the difficult thing, we have to keep on building on that and keep on surpassing people's expectations. But I think in terms of, you know, to you know, answer your question, continue with the list. Yeah, we did all the shows with a tank. We sampled more than anyone else. You know, we had clothing, you know, nice clothing to support the products that we had, and you know, we still do. And weirdly, we're not that bothered about making money. So we just kind of do the right thing. You know, if you wanted to make money during coronavirus, giving away hundreds and hundreds of thousands of drinks and bars wasn't the way to do it. But I've just got this belief that doing the right thing goes a long way. And someone said to me years ago, he said, I don't understand you, Al. He said, you could buy something for a tenner, sell it for a fiver, and yet somehow you've made money. And I think maybe that's the true essence of an entrepreneur, because I could do that, buy something and give it away, but generate so much goodwill from it that it comes back tenfold, more so than had we sold the product in the first place. So I'm a big believer in, you know, doing some of this sort of stuff. And it just goes on and on, you know, hard work, consistency, believing in what we do. So, you know, it's 10 years to the day and I'm still sat here just as passionate as I was 10 years ago. Yes, with a lot more people around me and lots more sales and a bigger marketing budget, but I love it as much as I always loved it. And I think maybe that's kind of the secret sauce. And I think where other people have sold their brands or sold shares in the brands, they lose interest. And I think people potentially thought that's what would happen with us. And, you know, to be fair, it hasn't. I think we just, you know, we're as driven as ever.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much information there. Just to break some of that down, you know, being yourself, believing in what you do. And, you know, even myself, when we won the New Look contract at 2009-10, when we were coming out of the recession, it was my personality of just being passionate that got me ahead of these big corporate companies, and when everyone was quite close. So really being passionate about what you do and then branding it, yeah, and then putting in the work, everything works to a successful model, doesn't it? There's not one thing.
People like people, and you got to be consistent, because you know, my family worked hard their whole lives. They didn't have that much to show for it at the end, but if you see an entrepreneur, you know, you'll see a lifetime of hard work. If you look at Richard Branson, 50 years in, he's still working hard. So that consistency, you can't always be at 100%, but I think you've got to be close to it. And a lot of people just can't do it. And, you know, and again, being selfish, you know, we never had kids. So we get up, we'd work, we'd go to bed. We didn't have distraction of children and schools and holidays and them being ill and all this sort of stuff. We could actually be kind of quite selfish. And, you know, if we were awake, we're working, which again, you know, brings to the sort of problems, which again is kind of wind away this whole lockdown thing. This is going to sound really bizarre, and I don't mean to like trivialize this as well, but because it's been so different from what we would normally do, just that change has been like a rest. And you know, I don't want to say it's been like a holiday, because it hasn't been like a holiday, because we don't take holidays, but just that change has been like almost like a rest, because it's kind of I think re-energized, certainly re-energized me. Whereas before you can just get kind of caught up in the day to day.
Yeah, and everyone's had to pause, because sometimes as an entrepreneur, you may want to break, but your clients and your customers want more and more. So it's hard to kind of break it, but now everyone's taking a bit of a break, aren't they?
Well, you know what I feel as well? I'm always under, and you will be as well, as an employee, an employer. And, you know, I'm both, because I'm basically employed by Lion, because Lion own, you know, 60% of Grenade. So I'm under a lot of pressure. Not that they put me under pressure, but I put myself under a lot of pressure, because I don't want to let people down, because they've invested in us. I don't want to let the consumers down, and I don't want to let myself down, and my family or the team. So, and when this happened, so this year we smashed our Q1 numbers, which were really aggressive. So, and as I said, you know, March, best month we've ever had. And then kind of COVID's kicked in, and it's all changed. But when kind of I was at the helm, making my decisions, you know, in this growing market and that normal market where we can kind of do what we want, everything we said we'd do, we've done, and we've hit those numbers. Now we're in this different situation. I actually feel a bit like the pressure's off, because there's so many things now I just can't do, because I can't make the shops reopen. I can't make the virus go away. I can't make people be healthy. There's so many things you actually can't do. Whereas when the shops are open, you know, you have to work with them, and, you know, this stuff then is all within your control. It's out of my control now. So to be honest, I actually feel less anxious than before this happened, which it was quite nice. And other silly things I've done, like Tom, who worked with his wife's a nurse, and there was all the hand washing thing. And, you know, she was saying, you know, make sure you're washing your wrists. And like, you know, I wear a watch. I've worn a watch for 40 years. Yeah. And then she said, oh yeah, they're like breeding grounds for germs. I haven't worn a watch for 2 months.
I'm the same.
And yeah, do you know what? I don't bloody miss it, because I can see the time there. I can see the time here. I can see the time there. What did I need to wear a watch for? I never realised that. Yeah. And just not having that is liberating. It's bizarre, isn't it? But all these little things that you just think, do you know, I'm not sure I'll ever go back to wearing a watch again.
The thing is,
well, so one stage I had a Fitbit, and I've got like a Garmin GPS, like a pilot's watch. And Tom at work said to me, he said, well, how do you know how many steps you've done every day? I said, I couldn't give a shit. Yeah. But before I did, I was like, I've done 19,000 steps, but I better do 20. Who cares? So it's really made people actually think about what's important. And I think maybe all this consumerism and this constant desire to obtain all this stuff, you know, maybe that will change. I do miss flying. I've not been able to fly around. I've got my own aircraft, and I do, because I fly myself. So I do miss that. But to be honest, if I could trade that plane for and, you know, no one flew anywhere, and the weather was like this all the time, where the weather I think is clearly better because there's no pollution, I would give up all my cars and the plane tomorrow, just to have weather like this all the time, and just cleaner air and better wildlife. I actually had to close the windows today because the wildlife is so loud outside. I thought it might interfere with the sound quality, but isn't that a crazy upside? And I'd happily give all the cars to have this all the time.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's something I've realised.
No, you're right. I was doing a live video in my garden. I couldn't do it because the birds were so loud. You only realise that.
Bloody things.
Just shut up now. Okay, get the planes going. I'd rather the planes. But yeah, you know, look, you know, we could probably talk about business. We've both been in business quite a long time.
We'll do another one. We'll do another one.
So I want to just leave this for some tips for my listeners. Obviously, they're business guys, you know, different kind of industries. You know, this pandemic, you know, I know you've mentioned things about, you know, relaxing and having that time to think. But what has changed you on a business sense? You know, have you learned anything yourself on a business sense which you will now take forward? I know about the community. Anything else that's come out from it?
I guess from a business perspective, we're now talking about, you know, how the lockdown's going to end and how we're going to go back into work and who's going to go, because, you know, we were pretty tight on office space anyway. You know, we were looking to move. I'm sure we will move, but, you know, where we've got 70 people in office now, there's going to be 20, I guess, because of social distancing. And actually, we're saying for the first time, well, actually, you know, who needs to go in every day? You know, do I need to go in every day or whatever? And I think a lot of our team won't need to be able to work from home. I think the marketing team who, you know, need a lot of face-to-face interaction will be to kind of get priority. And I think most others will just kind of work more remotely. So I guess I'm saying the whole work-life balance, or work-life blend, as I like to call it, is probably going to change. I don't think I'll be going back into the office 5 days a week, just because you know, the team are so good. They don't need me there. If I'm there, I'll get invited into loads of stuff and ask loads of things that actually they don't need to ask me. So I'm kind of wasting my own time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So that's probably something I've maybe learned the most. I mean, you know, there's definitely going to be a lot of struggling people out there between now and the end of the year and into next year. So we should all make a conscious effort to really think about how we can help them. But another thing, and I guess I knew this, I've learned again how much brand love there is for Grenade, and how when people are given the opportunity to buy our stuff, you know, they buy us just hand over fist over anyone else. All these other brands copy us, but where we're sat, you know, where we're sat sort of side by side, consumers pick us, you know, every time. And actually, and again, I think we knew this anyway, but a lot of our competitors are big chocolate brands now, just regular chocolate brands. Or they're owned by regular chocolate brands. And these brands have got armies of field sales people that go out and constantly re-merchandise product and make sure it's in stock and make sure it's at the, you know, I mean, Coke aren't a competitor, but Coke do this. They'll go into stores 2 or 3 times a day and they'll make sure the bottles are facing front and it's all pulled forward on the shelf. And, you know, someone physically goes in and does that. We can do some stores maybe once a week. Where we've got big chocolate competitors, they can do it once a day, because and therefore outsell us, because we'll be sold out and they won't, because they replenish the shelves themselves, because people in stores don't have time to necessarily replenish the shelves, which is, again, bizarre, and it's another one for another day. But yeah, shops haven't got time to fill the shelves. But anyway, they don't. So, you know, external people go in and do it. And we've learned that without that army of field salespeople out there and that advantage being removed, we outsell those chocolate brands 10 times over. Because you've got a completely organic choice, you know, between us and a chocolate bar brand, and both will look a bit dishevelled, or, you know, be having been well shopped, we call it, and they'll just pick us. Whereas, yeah, if one of the other brands has gone in and made it all look pretty and probably taken us off shelf or hidden us behind something else, you know, that they've been kind of outmanoeuvring us just by throwing money at it. And because now I think this actually has levelled the playing field. And I guess another thing I've learned as well is how quickly the very sexiest stores in the UK, like petrol stations and train stations and airports and well-known coffee shops, as the highest footfall locations you can think of, how overnight they can become the lowest footfall locations. So where we always kind of, you know, prioritise central London, because it's the most densely populated, it does make you realise as well that how quickly you can lose it. And, you know, every store, even the remote stores. So now, you know, the kind of the remote village country stores, convenience stores, are now kind of the best locations potentially to buy Grenade. So we've always valued all of them. It's amazing how fast those things can flip. And actually, again, I suppose, whether it's through luck or judgment, you know, probably a bit of both, how well positioned Grenade was and is to weather something like this, because, you know, we've got multiple products, multiple categories, multiple retailers on and offline, very digitally contemporary brand in 80 countries, you know, and it still hit us because it hit everywhere. If you were in, you know, one country, one channel, one product, one retailer, you'd be screwed. So you've really got to make sure that you kind of protect the downside.
Yeah, it's great to see your positive energy, you know, to have that kind of impact to your business, worldwide business, and look at the energy you're showing. And that it's because you believe in the brand. You know, a lot of people don't believe in what they're doing. They're not going to want to up for the fight, are they?
And we've been super careful at Grenade. So touch wood, no one yet has been ill, or any of their direct families have been ill. And out there, you know, people are dying. So, you know, we could be much, much, much worse off. You know, it doesn't matter if we sort of do or don't sell stuff, as long as we're all okay. So I think, like I said, probably I'm feeling, you know, less anxious than I was a few months ago. And it's been really inspirational and fantastic to see the team step up. Amazing how the team stepped up. Some of whom have been with me for years and have always been good, but like another level, you know, when this has kicked in, incredible, really. And again, it's kind of my job to make sure that, you know, I can kind of spot the talent and spot, you know, those kind of rising stars. And I think it's every entrepreneur's job to surround themselves with people cleverer than they are, you know, just so you can kind of conduct the orchestra, but without running around playing all the instruments. So, you know, picking, I think, good people over the years has really paid off, you know, as well. So what about you? What's the biggest business sort of thing you've learned over the last six, 7 weeks?
Obviously, on the mentoring, I get messages all the time, and obviously we have some through our academy. I think the biggest thing for me is just telling people to get on with stuff, with actions. Don't panic about things, because a lot of the questions I get is, what can I do? What can't I do? And when I sit down with them and talk to them over the phone now on Zoom, what are you doing? And normally they're not doing anything. And just start action taking, start testing, start your online marketing that you haven't been doing, start doing your Facebook ads, your Google ads, and, you know, start moving. Because, you know, great bit of advice I got from David McCourt, who came on recently, the billionaire from the US. And he gave some great advice. And one thing he said to me was, Jay, you know, you've got to kind of try to fast forward, look forward, and think of how we're going to come out and what we're going to look like, you know, and then work backwards from there. Don't wait for things to happen, you know, make things happen yourself. And I just thought, you know what, and this is where we go back to mentoring. It's not rocket science advice, but coming from him, I just thought, wow, you know what? And then the listeners were like, what amazing advice. And it's simple advice, but coming from him, and it's so true.
Do you know what it is? Actually, that's something that's so ridiculously simple. We never think about that, do we? But I tell people all the time. In fact, I told someone, we had a call a few hours ago on something else, and there was a lot of thinking going on. I said, guys, don't let a thinker, want some doers. Yeah. So less thinking, more doing. If you're doing something, it's got to be better than just thinking about doing it. It's got to be, even if you get it wrong, it's still got to be better. Yeah. And a friend of mine actually has been going to, his wife's been starting her own business for the last, as long as I can remember, the last few years, and kept on doing courses after courses after courses, and a degree, and another degree, and a PhD, and a master's. And I said, stop learning, start earning. And she's just started it in the middle of all this. Brilliant. And she said, I wish I'd done it years ago. I said, told you years ago. But it's so simple, isn't it? Just maybe you should actually start.
It's
like you wouldn't dream to win. You wouldn't dream of winning a race, would you? Without actually
you wouldn't.
Start line.
Oh, you wouldn't. You know, the funny thing was, because people because I've been known as a business mentor because my Princess Trust work I did after selling my business. But I had my mentor on. I think 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I interviewed him. And everyone says, Jay, you done really well. It's funny because I asked him, I said, Mike, what was it in me that you saw? And he said, it's so simple. He goes, the difference between you and others is when I gave you some advice, you'd actually do it. You'd run with it. Yeah. When others wouldn't, you just go and do it. You get a nugget and that's what I did. And it's not rocket science. And like you said, the problem we've got now is, and that's why I think mentoring and coaching is good, because it gets you accountable. Whereas, you know, if you go after course, there's always someone selling an idea or something, and it's never straightforward. And even if you do a course, I think course good, just actually do the action steps.
Do you want me to tell you my favourite ever mentoring, coaching, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, well, what about questions? Let's go to that. Yeah, what was it? Come on, let's talk.
Right, okay. So I'm not having it now, obviously for obvious reasons because of the lockdown, but I've been having sports massage off a guy because I really value my training and my health. So I've been having sports massage off a guy for pretty much 4 years. I'm his longest standing client, basically, every week for an hour and a half. So I don't spend an hour and a half a week with anyone, basically. So he gets an hour and a half a week of my time where he can have anything and, you know, we just chat shit, and he's a really energetic guy. I love him. He comes around the house. Anyway, he was going to set up this business. I'm even going to say what it is. It was like a sauna business. Yeah. And he told me all about the science and whatever. And it sounds amazing. And I said, I'll have one. He said, in fact, I'll have two.
Yeah.
4 years on, Never happened. Bits would happen. And anyway, about a year ago, I said, I don't want to know. Stop telling me. I'm not interested. Yeah. I said, because you don't fucking do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, I've even ordered them. I don't even want one. I've even ordered it off you and you haven't done it. So anyway, I said, never tell me about the sauna business ever again. He went, do you know what? Fair comment. That's fair enough. So for a year, we never talk about it. So anyway, then I did a podcast last year with Steve Bartlett. Yeah, so I did this podcast, The Diary of a CEO, and this podcast, it's had a lot of downloads. Yeah. And I see Ben that night, and he's listened to this podcast, and he came in and he went, oh, I heard your podcast, unbelievable. Yeah. I went, right. And he went, God, stuff you said on that podcast. I went, I told you all this weekly to your face for 3 years. Yeah. And he went, different on the radio. And it's just like, what the fuck? It's just like, but isn't it amazing how you can tell someone something and it just like whoosh, and then the minute you go on like a a talk show or whatever, all of a sudden you're like a hero, and that advice becomes credible. It's really bizarre. That's my favourite story. He subsequently went and did it.
That's good.
Eventually, but it's really funny how, and I think that's the thing. You can tell people stuff kind of one-on-one. But the minute you kind of broadcast it, whether it's correct or not, it becomes like hearsay. Yeah. It becomes absolute gospel. Sorry.
It's like a flick. It's like a switch that flick. I think one of the key things I say to people to get them clicked and get into action is, look, I think there's some research done when someone went around to all the care homes and spoke to the older generation, and one of the key messages out of all these little messages was the regret of not doing it. It wasn't about anything else. It's about, I didn't take that idea. I didn't do this. So even if you think you're going to fail, just do it anyway, because you'll learn so much. Yeah. And that's the most important thing.
I've been saying this a lot the last 12 months about failure and not fearing failure, and failure being your friend. And it's got to be quick failure, not slow failure, because that's worse. And I don't regret anything. I would hate to look back. And for that point, I don't want to be the person in the old people's home who just said, oh, I wish I'd worked harder. I wish I'd done that brand. I wish I'd, taken that meeting. I had that idea. I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done that. I want to be the person that's saying, well, actually, I did this and it didn't work. I did that and it didn't work, but I had fun, or I did this and it did work. And whether it's worked or not, just do it.
Just do it.
Just trying some. People are terrified of failing.
They are.
But failing is better than just, if you haven't done it, you failed. I'd rather do it and fail than not do it, and then you've automatically failed anyway. At least you had a go.
What's the fear of failure?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you can even there's multiple layers of fear as well. Actually, a friend of mine's, Jeff Thompson's, martial arts expert, and he wrote whole books about fear and post-fight fear and all this stuff. And it's fascinating actually how he used to talk about being scared of how you would feel after you'd had, say, a fight or a confrontation before you'd even had the fight. And it's an absolute thing. So a situation would arise, and you kind of it's like called post-fight fear, and that's just into the fighting and that adrenaline. But imagine in business, people just talk themselves out of it. And I get that it's kind of scary, but history will judge the people that did stuff and the people that didn't do stuff. And I know which side I'd rather be on.
Yeah, I don't know about you. People say that obviously I was a really good salesperson, and people say, when I mean sales, I could talk and hold a conversation. And how do you get that? Well, the first time I picked up the phone, I was bricking myself. Yeah, but I got over that fear, and you get fear of rejection. Then you go through a phase where it's not about you, it's about your company. But you've got to go through that phase. I mean, everyone's done that, and that's the key thing, isn't it? But look,
a friend of mine always says about controlling your environment, and again, that sort of that fear of failure, and control the environment and not let the environment control you. And hence I'm a massive believer in business. You should do stuff that terrifies you. If going and speaking in front of lots of people terrifies you, don't avoid it, do it. Because I don't want to be scared of anything. I don't want to be scared of stuff like that. I want to look forward to it and enjoy it. So it's amazing how many people, and I know some people are more confident than others, but like you said, it just comes back confidence. I think you can learn, and like we've been saying all along, personality gets you a long way, and that's something that's very unique to you. It's free, and there's a distinct lack of it in the world. And if you've got a bit of personality, and that's where you meet yourself, people like Rob Moore, Steve Bartlett, personality. They're not always necessarily, saying anything that, super, super clever. None of us are, Stephen Hawking, are we? But it is just the fact that we're saying it, and it's simple and it's real advice. And everyone has got the ability to do that. It is free. And, I talk a lot about being disruptive, and Steve Bartlett was asked a lot about, what's it mean to be disruptive? And, being disruptive can just be really cheap. It doesn't have to be expensive, and anyone can be disruptive. And you're better off having no money to be disruptive, because if you've got money, you'll probably spend it. And actually, if you haven't got it, you can't spend it. So it really gets the creative juices flowing if you can't throw money at things, because that's what the big brands do. They just chuck money at it.
They do, and the way you can win, that's how you've done your business. I did my business, is using your personality, your hands, your hard work, your dedication, because you can't outwin the brands in my industry, and especially yours. No. And you're left with yourself.
Can't them. I'll give you an example. So when we first launched Grenade Fat Burner, our biggest competitor was Thermobol by Maximuscle. And again, Maximus had been set up by Zev Eisenberg. He sold it, for a lot of money to GlaxoSmithKline. I would rather take on GlaxoSmithKline and their billions of pounds and their tens of thousands of employees than have taken on Zev, the entrepreneur, because when we were marketing Thermodetonator, we got £12 to spend. So we went and bought a couple of t-shirts to get us started. They spent 12 million sponsoring the rear wing of a Formula One car, which I don't know how many people saw, but probably no one cared. But so you're not going to outspend them, but you can outthink them. And actually, although as competitors, we had that vested interest in Grenade. And actually, the GSK guys were kind of watching us and kind of wanting us to win, because they didn't have any vested interest in Maximuscle doing well, because GSK owned it and they just worked there. So no one really had that ownership mentality over that brand like we did. So they were kind of like, as the underdogs, people kind of willing us to win. So really strange from a competitor, but we didn't hurt them. We haven't hurt anyone by us doing well. The better that we've done, the better everyone's done, frankly. There have never been any losers around Grenade. And I think that's one of the reasons that, it's been so popular and well-liked, because everyone has prospered, whether you're a supplier, a consumer, a retailer, someone that's worked for us. Competitor brands have learned a lot from us and have been sold for huge sums of money because they copied what we did. So, everyone's won. But just one thing, I know we've got to wrap up, but I'd love to finish just with this, if I may.
Go for it.
One of the best things about this current situation and us doing what we do and being entrepreneurs is just, and one of the best tips I could give to anyone is just surround yourself with people that you really like. Always do that. No one negative, just good, nice, honest, hardworking people that you trust, respect, admire, whatever the word might be. Doesn't matter what they've got. I've got friends who are billionaires. I've got friends who are bin men. But I surround myself with people that I like. Anyone around you that's toxic, including family, just get new ones. Just get new friends. And that's the best advice I could give you, because we all have a choice. And that's what's nice doing things like this, because through the Entrepreneur Network, I've met I can't think of an entrepreneur I've ever met that I didn't like. Because we're all so similar, because it's just like everyone wants the same thing. And they're just nice, positive people. I
was just about to say to you, because people ask, because I interview and you interview lots of good people, and honestly, most good, successful entrepreneurs, they're humble. They're just nice people.
I know.
And we get the image. We get
Dennis rang me the other week.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Sorry, go on. There's a delay on the line. Sorry, go on. Carry on.
I was just going to say that, we have this perception when you're starting a business, they're these guys that are not going to talk and reach out to you. But every entrepreneur, whether it's a billionaire, they're so nice. And I can't believe what we've got to do is take the ones who just shout loudest and are shouting a load of bollocks, basically, and make sure you go to the ones that are actually trying to help people, which you, me, and all of us are trying to do in the long term.
And again, there's some wealthy tossers, and there's some entrepreneurs out there who are tossers, but you can see them a mile away and just avoid them. I want to make money. We all want to make money, but I want to make money with a conscience and the right way. I'm having fun doing it. And I was on a call the other week, and Ron rang me, so I've got to go. So I've got Ron Dennis on the phone, and I was like, "Hi, Ron, how are you?" And we're having a chat. He said, "Oh, Alice." I said, "No, we didn't know each other." And he said, "Oh, I know you don't really know me." He said that I really want some protein bars for this NHS thing. Then you make the best one, and I've been told to sort of give you a ring, and you've been told you're a good guy. And he said, like, can I have 250,000 protein bars? It took about 4 seconds to talk me into it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do." And he said, "Do you know what?" He said, I said, "Look, it's a lot for us." I said, "But yeah, I'll do it." And I've never met him, and he said, "I shan't forget it." He said, I don't forget stuff like this. So it's like, yeah, no problem, whatever. And shipped it all. And that sort of stuff. And I think that's the type of thing that, again, if that had been a different company, you could have a whole board, you could decide who would do it, why you would do it, why you wouldn't do it, what it would cost. Yeah. But it was just kind of felt like a very simple decision that we should do. And it was the right thing to do.
Right thing to do, yeah.
You know, I can't see it backfiring on us. Whether we get any benefit from it, I don't know. But I think if people finish a 12-hour shift and get one of our drinks and bars and enjoy it, there's the benefit. And they'll remember that we were thinking of them at this time. And yeah, we weren't sort of doing what, you know, certain brands and companies and countries are doing, whereby they're increasing the prices of everything and taking the proverbial, basically. But I've loved having a chat with you, Jay. So thanks for doing this virtually.
No,
and
look,
keep pushing me.
I really appreciate your time, and you know, we're going to do a proper full one. I think this is being dictated by what we're in at the moment, which is, I think, is more important. And we're going to go deeper, and you're going to come to the studio. I can't wait for that. And we'll go for that lunch that we're going to do.
Brilliant. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. So thank you for watching that video. If you want to see other videos and great guests, make sure you subscribe and like the video. So you can now head over to my website where you can see a bit of my story of building and scaling my businesses, and also all the free resources and tools which you can help you on your journey in your brand and your business. You can also subscribe on the podcast, so you can check on iTunes, Spotify and other locations where you can find the podcast. And I look forward to catching you very soon. Thank you.